Spring is right around the corner. That means it's time to start talking about rooftop tents. I'm gonna take you on a tour of my roof nest. I'm gonna tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and why I chose it. Give you some pointers on how to select the perfect rooftop tent for your adventures. So what I have up here on the Grenadier is the Roof Nest Falcon 2 Evo XL. And the main reason that I picked it was size. I've had James Baroud iCampers. They're all pretty thick, and I recently put a 2-inch lift on the Grenadier, and so my garage clearance space was an issue, and this was perfect for the tight space I have between the top of the Grenadier and the roof of my garage. You can see it's pretty much a uniform length or uniform height all the way across, which is nice too. A lot of the hard shell tents have some height variability, which can get hung up on things. But this has a nice flat clearance. It's rhino lined, for lack of a better term, meaning that between the shape and how it's finished, that branches and things are gonna pass over it very easily. I chose for the first time a tent that pivots on the front, meaning it opens like a clamshell, which is new for me. Someone my height and with the size feet I do usually has a hard time, but this tent is extremely long inside. It's way longer than I would need to stretch out, and I'm 6'4". So to me, having the ability to open and close it quickly and having the hinges on the front be as strong as they are was a good trade-off for me rather than having a tent that folds up completely. One of the things I like and don't like are the shock absorbers. They're really useful in raising it and lowering, along with these really stout latches. They're great to put on. There is some clearance interference if you have a flat deck roof rack like this one, but it's not terrible. What I don't like, obviously, is that the shock absorber, the strut, is external to the tent. I don't know construction-wise if it'd be feasible to have them inside, but this is just one more thing that potentially could get damaged on the trail. But I weighed that risk, given that the roof rack is wider than the tent and that anything that comes in contact is theoretically gonna push off the roof rack. I decided that would be a worthwhile trade-out as well. So moving around to the back of the tent, one of the things I really love about roof nest tents are these handles. Because it's a front pivot opening clamshell, it sits up really high. So in addition to there being a very long pull strap, it has these very tough handles that you can grab a hold of and just swing yourself down and pull the thing closed, which I'll show you. In terms of mounting the tent, obviously there's 1,000 different types of rail systems and mounting systems, and so many different kinds of roof racks. Sometimes finding the right mounting system for your roof rack can be a challenge, so make sure and research that to the degree possible. Ask any questions down below. I'm happy to answer them if you need some help kind of figuring out how to fit one rooftop tent to a particular rack. But I ran into a little bit of some problems with the roof nest mounting to the rhino rack, in that the slats for the mounting clamps don't exactly line up with the slats as they are available on the openings in the rack. But it wasn't a terrible problem, just required a little bit of drilling and some measuring, and it went on relatively easy at the end of the day. But these are all questions that you want to answer before you get the tent out of the box to the degree possible. Okay, let's go ahead and open the tent and we'll see what's inside. And that's all it takes to put this thing up. I want to take just a moment and tell you why I picked a hard shell tent over a soft shell. There's advantages and disadvantages to both, and like anything else in overlanding, it's highly dependent on where you're going to be using the thing and what you're going to be using it for. I really like soft shell tents. They're great. They unfold. They can be much bigger than the hard shell tents. I also like the hybrid varieties like iCamper that are a little bit of both. But ultimately, I made the decision based on the reality of where I was going to be doing most of my overlanding. And I live in the Midwest, and there are big hardwood trees all over the place that would love nothing more than to eat a soft shell rooftop tent for lunch. Again, not as big of an issue if you don't plan on doing a lot of even extreme overlanding in a place with a lot of trees. So again, it's highly dependent on what you're going to do with this rooftop tent. For me, most of the time when I'm camping, it's either me or me and my wife. And if my children are along, they usually sleep in a ground tent. Very rarely would I ever willingly cram 5 people into a rooftop tent. That just doesn't sound like a very enjoyable way to spend a weekend. But again, just know where you're going and make your decisions based on what's gonna work for you. Both soft shell and hard shell tents are great. They both have wonderful features and they both have their unique advantages and disadvantages. Make the decision while educating yourself at the same time. So looking at the tent from the outside in, one of the things that I really like about especially the new roof nest tents is that they have a lot of extra features that some of the other ones just don't have. Starting with, it has ports for either outside electrical or a duct for a heating system. When my wife and I are camping, or even when it's just myself, I like to make camping a 4-season experience. This duct opening and a plein air or Vivor or any other kind of diesel heater will turn the inside of this tent into a 70-degree glamping paradise. So it's a really nice feature to have. The other thing I really like about roof nest tents is that there's doors. 1, 2, 3 large doors that you can use. 2 on the sides and then a big one in the front or in the back. And what I like about this is when it comes to getting gear up into it, because that's so big, you can literally stand back and free throw your duffel bags and stuff into the tent. And that's just a nice feature to have. Walking around to the side, I mounted my ladder points on this side. Typically, most of the time I use the ladder on the Grenadier, but having the angled ladder that came with the tent is kind of a little more comfortable for most people to use. So if it's my wife and I'll put this one on the side, be able to use that door. All the doors are huge in this thing. It's one of the things I love most about it. You can throw people in and out of it without ever touching the sides of the tent. It's great. Inside the roof nest rooftop tent, a lot of headroom, a lot of space. If you've ever seen Chris Farley change clothes in the movie Tommy Boy in the airplane lavatory, that's what I feel like a lot of times trying to change inside a rooftop tent. With the roof nest, with this really high clearance, it makes it much less of a challenge for me. Another feature that I love with roof nest is the built-in LED lighting. Just using a small little jump battery, you can run this lighting for a long time. It's just LED strip lighting, uses very little power at all. They have it installed on both sides. All kinds of storage in here, all kinds of attachment points if you need to strap gear to the roof or anything. A lot of places to put your stuff you want to keep close at hand at night. And then there is also on the sides, there's a place to put your shoes, to hang them off of the tent floor. The other feature I like is that despite how small it is, I can leave most of my bedding in here while it's folded down, which again, saves storage in the vehicle, is just a really good alternative to having to take a bunch of stuff out of your tent. You just close the tent over your bedding and latch it up and you're good to go. Everything in overlanding is a trade-off. If you're wanting something, it's gonna come at the expense of something else. There's only so much space, there's only so much weight we can carry. When we make decisions based on things like how slim the rooftop tent is when it's closed, unfortunately and naturally, we're gonna have to sacrifice a few other things. And one of the things that I do not like about this tent is the mattress. It's pretty small. I'm a big guy, perhaps for somebody maybe a little smaller, it might be a little more comfortable, but I find my hips and my shoulders making contact with the floor of the tent. I haven't exactly figured out a workaround about that yet. Thus far, I've just used a semi-inflated backpacking mattress on top of this one, and that works just fine. But I'm on the lookout for a comparably sized air mattress that I can install in here, deflate when the tent is closed, still keep my bedding in, but also to provide maybe twice the thickness that this mattress has. So again, I get it. You have to make concessions when you're designing a product like this, and for the slimness of the tent, I feel like they made the right choice in mattresses. For me personally though, I just want to get a little something more comfortable. Another feature I really like about the roof nest is the ability to either be able to see the stars above you while you're sleeping, or because this is part of the fly, if you take that off, you can have open access to the air, which is nice. There's a screen panel you can leave closed if you want to do that. So if you had burritos that night and you really want to just get some fresh air circulating in the tent, you can do that in a big way. But if it's cold, another feature that I like about this tent is that it has in common a lot with backpacking tents. If you camp a lot in the winter, you know that condensation inside the tent can be a big problem. Your nighttime exhalations will usually freeze or form to the inside wall of the tent, and it can create a moisture problem both for your sleeping bag and inside the tent. The key to that always is proper ventilation at the top of the tent. With the roof nest, you have these pyramid-shaped vents. They're tucked underneath the fabric of both the fly and the tent, so you can prop the outside open, get really good airflow, but no danger of rain coming in. And there's one of these on each side. I've slept in here a number of times this winter so far, and I've never had a problem with condensation. And as you know, for multi-day camps, you want to keep your bed and your bedding and your tent as dry as possible, and these will allow you to do that. When it comes to taking the tent down, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. This is less having to do with selection of the tent, but just general operation of the tent. First of all, with a lot of these fabric-sided hard shell tents, you'll see this bungee cord installed with it. And the purpose of that is to ensure, or at least to assist in the walls kind of sucking in when you close the tent. The other thing is to make sure that you leave your windows partially open. That way the air that comes out when you fold the clamshell down won't blow the sides of the tent out. If they do, then you're gonna have a lot of tuck. You'll have a lot of tucking that you'll have to do anyway, but you might as well keep it as little as possible. So let's close this thing. Keys. Nice and slow. Like I tell my kids, going faster doesn't necessarily get you done quicker. Oh yeah. Yeah, sometimes you gotta back up. Try her again. That did it. Let's go camping.